any society, the last line of defense is the press and the judiciary. The day, to use the word I love, you vulgarize the press and you vulgarize the judiciary, as a society will be in trouble. Big, big trouble. It is my honor and duty and privilege to invite a friend of the press, but also a member of the judiciary.
And we will never stop talking about the welfare of journalists in this country, because it's one thing to talk about press freedom and allow these journalists to go home and sleep hungry.
That either at your invitation or even without your invitation, I still commemorate the day, because the day is not commemorated by the persons who gather at a function like this, but for everyone who benefits, understands, profits from the freedom of the press. At one time, actually, I was an honorary journalist. I was an honorary member of Uganda Journalist Association. I don't know whether my membership was revoked, but I need to check. I was invited to give a keynote speech for World Freedom Day, the future of information as a public good in Uganda, specifically enhancing the legal and regulatory framework for the protection of information as a public good in Uganda. We commemorate this day, one, to raise public awareness about the role of the media, to promote independent journalism, while offering solutions for media sustainability, and highlight the threats to journalists' safety. This day is also to remind governments of their duty to respect and uphold the right to freedom of expression and ensure, as enshrined in Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 41 of the Constitution of Uganda, to mark also the anniversary of the Windhoek Declaration of 1931. We cannot do so without reminding ourselves from where and how far we have come. This is not my first time addressing this topic, and I have always repeated myself by trying to remind myself and the audience how we came to be where we are today. And all this starts with the advent of writing. And writing was I think, one of the greatest inventions of mankind, because how else would human beings communicate? Of course, through the word of mouth. But the word of mouth was very dangerous, because first of all, it could be distorted. Secondly, the messenger could be killed or captured or whatever. So these encrypted messages were found necessary. They were invented by people in authority, especially to use to communicate to the governors who were governing their provinces, or to their allies, or to other kings. Because the messengers were often arrested and forced to reveal the messages they were carrying, that specialized writers, scribes, such as Moses in the Bible. You know, Moses was not a Hebrew. Moses was an Egyptian. He was a Hebrew by blood, but an Egyptian because he was raised as a grandson of the Pharaoh. And he was educated at the highest university in Egypt, and was therefore able to read and write and command the army and do all the things that the peasant population and the slave population could not do. And one of the things he learned was to write. And that's why the 5 books of the Bible are attributed to him. With writing, you are able to communicate to others, to a smaller number of people, and skip others. So at this time, the kings, there's a revelation that they would write on clay tablets, and the scribe would write and either go with the tablet or take it, say, from Egypt to Babylon, and the scribe in Babylon would be able to read what is on the clay tablet to the king of Babylon as the message from the king of Egypt. It's a long history, and then they developed seals to authenticate and all that. So the clay tablets stand into stone, and later, of course, the Egyptians invented paper. And you all know about the black, the Dead Sea Scrolls. That then you get into that with a small group of people keeping information in that in writing and sharing it at the behest of the rulers who paid them as scribes because they were doing specialized work. If you have not read, and I think most of you must know this, that people did not know the paintings they found in the Egyptian tombs until they found the stone tablet that had both the Egyptian writing and I think the Persian one. And the priests could read Persian, but they could not read Egyptian, but because there were 2 versions of it, there were laws that were translated. The tablet had the 2 versions. And after a long time, they were therefore able to decode the tombs of the Egyptian fellows, who they were, what they did, how they did that, because we are able to decode that. And that's very, very recent. So the control of information is necessarily the control of power and knowledge. So information, everybody now thinks, oh, we need information. Information is not for everyone. Information is for you, the journalist. You have your small pens, you keep the information in your pocket, you only publish what you want, and that's what gives you power. The government keeps the information. The church keeps its information, and it is not given to the rest of the public. When Johannes Gutenberg was in political exile from Germany in France, he started the process of inventing a printing press, and it was functional by 1450 for commercial use. Therefore, a large number of books could be printed at less cost in a short time, and this helped to spread literacy and education in Europe. Now imagine what was happening at that time with very few books. The Bibles were handwritten, and there were very few. They were handwritten. In fact, every page the scribe had to count the number of words and the number of letters to confirm that it is a true copy of what the reproduction is a true copy of the original. So the availability of books also became availability of knowledge. The availability of knowledge allowed more people to advance in all spheres, not just in education, but in science, in technology, in literature, in languages, and all that. But those who had previously controlled power were not happy that other people were getting this knowledge, because the knowledge was vested in them. For example, the church was not happy at all that the Bible was being printed. In fact, the Catholic Church has just recently, I think in the 60s, allowed Catholics to touch the Bible. It was a sacrilegious sin, the unforgivable sin. If you touch the Bible, you would completely go to hell that day and nobody would get you from hell. What is the reason? The reason is to keep power, and by keeping information away from people. In fact, William Tyndale, a leading English scholar and Protestant reformist, was burned to death because he translated the Bible from Latin into English. He was burnt on the stake, not by the state, not by terrorists, but by the church. So you can see how important it was to restrict knowledge, because now if the church didn't want us to ask, but where is heaven? Up there. But have you been there? Don't you know what they didn't want to ask? When I was a pupil, I think in primary 3, we are being taught about creation, and then they said then Cain killed Abel, and then after that God put a mark on his forehead that whoever meets him should not kill him. Then a student put up his hand, and people said, but sir, you said there were only 4 people, Adam, Eve. Now who are the people who were God? That's what God cares about 6 kids for asking a stupid question. How do you start asking stupid questions in class? But you wanted to know, understand now where were the other people who were going to kill you? Another one asked, where did Abel get a wife? Why are you asking where Abel got a wife? You're very stupid. So, and the myth of religion kept people under control. The vesting knowledge in a small group of people gave them power over a vast number of people who did not have that knowledge. So they came, they gave them tithe. If you give a priest money, then he will take you to heaven where he has not been, and so forth, and so on and so forth. Of course, on the other side, there was the state that, with all this myth, feudal bigotry about how the king had blue eyes and the princes were like born in a castle, and therefore the peasants had to dig and just. But it was no scientific, that they had divine right to rule. People have divine right to rule. Now, if you can't question that unless you have information and say no. But if you have blue blood, how come when they are transfusing you, they take my blood of a peasant, they don't, which is not blue? Even the scientists who tried to advance knowledge at that time, whether it was Isaac Newton, he had to toe the line of the powerful feudal establishment, and of course, especially the church. Charles Darwin had a big problem publishing and introducing his thesis on the evolution of species, because it was contradicting the theory of creation, which was just of course a theory. But you can see, so by the state and the powerful establishment, for example, the churches, keeping knowledge by themselves, they kept human beings for millennia under ignorance. So the moment information was freely available to the people, it is not far-fetched to state that it was the fuel that drove industrial revolution. It's the knowledge, it is the information that drove civilization into leaps and bounds until where we are now. Because people were able to read, they were able to go to school, scientific information was not censored, and therefore it was easy to have both scientific and technological advancement by dispelling myth, bigotry, witchcraft, and question power of feudalism. Fast forward. Upon the advent of Christianity here in Uganda and Islam, the first converts were called readers. So it was very important that people read fast. Therefore, able to obtain information. And yes, they are called readers. They were called readers. And the rest, they had all background of journalism. Ability to spread the word, the political word against colonialism, the advancement of Africans through their newspapers, whether it was Uno, or I don't remember the first newspapers that were published here in this country, Mulengera, and the rest. They had both the power to do so, and the power to do so gave them power that gave them ability to be elected into positions of power and to influence society. These our journalists who are journalists who are professionals, who write articles in newspapers and criticize government and expose corruption and expose child abuse and neglect and promote human rights and promote gender rights without them having to expand into what we call vulgarizing the press of all this shocking news, everything, shocking news. Why do you have to give me shocking news? Why don't you just give me good news? That everything, whatever rubbish it is, shocking news just came in. And there's nothing shocking news. Now every headline is shocking. You are not supposed to shock readers. You are supposed to give them. You are supposed to give them good information. Celebrate the World Freedom Day and expand the democratic space by expanding your freedom as journalists. No one is going to fight for you. No one is going to fight for you. You journalists, you have power to fight for your space. But you have allies. You have the power to fight space, but you have allies. You have civil society, you have government, you have the international community to expand the freedom. If you don't do that, it will shrink. It will shrink. And you will shrink with it. You'll shrink with it. But I hope not. Because where we have come from is far. And where we are now requires reflection on everyone. But ultimately, we go back to the point I began with. Free information fuels a free society, fuels democratic space, fuels learning, education, science, technology, and medicine. Endeavor to do that. I thank you.